Every time we purchase inventory from our supplier, we update this sheet right here so that everything is nice and organized, but also it allows us to track when we need to update our COGS throughout the year, which is really important if you want to stay on top of accurately tracking and analyzing your per unit ROI, net margin, and break-even ACOS. And so I'm going to run through this sheet right here. It's how we like to track a lot of our inventory orders at Jungle Scout, but just keep in mind that we're doing this right now for one parent ASIN, and so this may not be the best way of doing it for your business if you have tons of different products and you want to do this at scale. But I do want to run through this sheet here because it's a very simple organizational sheet, and so we will actually have a templated version of this sheet if you want to give it a try down in the comments below, so make sure to check that out. It's a free download. And so that's just real quickly here. I'll zoom in so that we can see things a little bit better. And I want to just run you through what we're looking at here. This first kind of section is the order details section in blue. We split it up into two sections, the manufacturing and the shipping sections. And so starting at the left here, these columns here are really just very important dates. The first date here is the only non-directional date, and that is our shipping invoice. So when the supplier gives us the invoice. To the left of that, we actually hyperlink the Alibaba order, which is the source information of most of what's going to be on this sheet here. And if you're not using Alibaba, that's completely fine. You can hyperlink anything to your order number there. We like to use it for the trade assurance, but also it's just cool to see like your payment history. There's a timeline of your operational history as well. And then in one page here, we actually have our sea shipping cost next to our manufacturing cost as well. So this is what we like to use to track, or I'm sorry, to purchase inventory. But now let's look at these next columns because these are very directional for us. That is our initial payment and our final payment. The way we work with our supplier is we pay them around like 50% up front to start the production. And then when they're done with that, we send them the other 50% so that they can get it off and sent into Amazon for us. And so when we track the initial payment and the final payment, we're able to see the manufacturing time. And so that's just a calculation of those two dates, which again is really helpful directionally so that we know, on average, how long does it take for our supplier to manufacture our product. And in some cases, we can see anomalies. Like our last inventory order for some reason just took way longer than the average of 71. And so that's something that we may need to look at, ask our supplier what's going on, what's the issue, is there anything we can do to speed up production? And so this is why it's nice to have this. But over to the right here is our shipping section. We track our Incoterms here, but then we have the order shipped. And this is when the supplier tells us they put the inventory on the truck. Whenever they tell us it's shipped, that's what we mark this date as, because once it arrives, whether that's at a 3PL facility like AWD or some other 3PL, or whether that's directly at Amazon FBA, we want to know what that total shipping time is. And again, this is great to look at directionally because we can segment our lead times here. So our shipping time separate from our manufacturing time, and then we can add the total lead time together. It looks like for us here, 94 days, about 3 months is our total lead time, which is really good to see. The only time that was really above that average for the most part was our very first inventory order here. That's awesome. And then for us, we like to actually hyperlink our Amazon shipping order in here as well. Again, just to help keep everything nice and organized and quick and easy to access. Or if you're using a freight forwarder, there's a section for this as well. And you would hyperlink your shipping order with them. Now let's move over to these next two rows or columns here or sections. It's a total cost and per unit cost. This is where we actually are looking at our units ordered, looking at the manufacturing costs, any miscellaneous costs you may have, and then your shipping costs, which will give you your total COGS. And then this per unit cost is really just dividing your units ordered by all these totals over here. And then that gives you this all-important total cost of goods per unit column. And why this is really important, as you can see here, is our COGS have changed throughout the life cycle of this product. We started at $11.04. We went all the way up to $12.47, and we're currently now at the floor, which is awesome, $9.39. And so why this is important, again, going back to updating our COGS and knowing when to update our COGS, is because when our COGS swings like that, if it's a couple cents, it really doesn't matter. But if you're going up and down by $1, $2, $3, then it's going to play a factor in how aggressive you can be in advertising. And that's just one example. Obviously, when you analyze your net margin or your ROI, things are going to change as well. And so that's why we have this break-even ACoS calculator here. So if we, we're currently at $9.39. We recently updated this, but let's say we go back to that high end, which was $12.47. You can see here how our break-even ACoS will go from 35 to 26. So we now need to be way more passive, or at least way more dialed in on our ad spend if our goal is to stay profitable across the board. I'm just going to revert that back here for this example, but that's why it's really important to track your COGS, especially if they swing like this, a couple of dollars, all throughout the year, all throughout your inventory runs. And so I want to now bring up this next and final section of the sheet, which is looking at inventory batches rather than inventory orders, which is what we're looking at up here. So just real quick before we get into that, you'll probably have noticed there's certain rows like our latest inventory order, order number 7 here, that just has one row. And that's because we sent all of our inventory, which was 3,500 units, directly, looks like, into, Amazon FBA at this date. But for example, order number 6 has 2 rows. And that's because we had 2 inventory batches. We actually sent, 2,400 units into a 3PL, which was AWD. And then we sent 1,800 units directly into Amazon FBA. I'm trying to recall if that's because we had storage limits at the time or if we wanted to test out AWD, because this was the first time we tested AWD out. But either way, that's why you'll see here that there's 2 inventory batches sometimes per order. And that's sort of what's going on in this bottom sheet here, where instead of looking at order numbers, we're looking at inventory batch numbers. And why this is helpful is because your batches may have slightly different shipping cost, right? Your manufacturing costs should stay the same. In fact, if we look at our manufacturing costs, it's pretty much stayed the same. But our shipping cost per unit, supplier shipping cost, has drastically changed from $3.92 on the high end to our latest order, which is $1.68. And even between orders, so order number 6 had almost a 50% increase sending it to AWD than it did sending it to Amazon FBA. And so that's important. You have 2 different COGS essentially for the same order. And to show you sort of how we know when to update our COGS is this sheet right here. I'm going to run you through an example. Again, this is our real data using our washable pee pads as an example. Our first round of inventory came in on the 19th of March. We marked that as an inventory arrival, and that inventory that came in that arrival was 192 at the cost of goods at $11.04. Now, during that time, in that same inventory order, if I scroll up, it's this one right here. We also had 312 units come in, but we didn't sell out of our original inventory batch yet. So we're just marking that as an inventory arrival, and our active COGS didn't change because, we again still didn't sell that 192 units. It wasn't until April 7th, so almost 3 weeks later, that we sold 192 units. It's at that point that we change our COGS to this last inventory arrival. And so that's what we're doing here. And if you want to kind of go back and retro to see, when you want to update or when you should have updated your COGS, or just to do this in the future, how we did it here is I'm going to look at this first date, 3/19, change this in Jungle Scout to 3/19. And then when did we say we sold that? So it was 4/7. So basically what I'm looking for is to get around this 192 units number. And so we said that was April 7th. If I click apply, I should see around 194 units. So close enough. You don't got to be exact. The thing is, you just want to get close enough. And so at April 7th, that's when we knew to change our COGS to the latest cost of goods, which is now $10.95. And we kind of just keep repeating that as the year goes by. When did we sell, in this case, 312 units? It looks like we sold that 2 months later, and then our cost of goods changed. It actually went down about almost 90 cents. So this is why we like this sheet. I think the main purpose of it started out originally for it to be just an organizational sheet where we can quickly access our last inventory orders, our last shipping orders, track our lead time, and just have total control within Excel. But then it turned into hey, when our COGS change, we actually need to update that within Jungle Scout or within whatever tool you're looking at to analyze your net margin and your ROI. And so that's why we added in that break-even ACoS calculator. But then we're like, oh crap, when did it actually change? We need to know that. And so when we just added in this basic little section here that helps us do that. So again, if you want to try this out for your own business, the link to the free download is in the comments below. Let us know how it goes for you, whether this does work for your business. I'm sure you can modify it or do whatever you want to match your business a little bit better than what we're doing here. But again, this is something that we do just for our one product that we sell here at Jungle Scout. And hopefully it does work for you. Let us know down in the comments if you like this sheet, if you want to see more videos like this. We'd love to hear your feedback. But until then, have a great weekend and we'll talk to you soon.